Yeah.
Hello guys and welcome back, it's Hydra here with another video. Today we're going to be looking at the perk system within Inquisitor Martyr. This is our first taste of customization for our characters, which will influence our gameplay style and our final endgame builds. This is super exciting. These 3 perks which you can choose from, there are lots in total but you will have access to 3 of them, can be interchanged outside of combat at any time, outside of a mission I should say. Let's have a look at all of these and then we'll talk about them a little bit more. So the first one we have is artificial organs. Here our health regen is increased by 100% and our inoculator is reduced by 50% effectiveness in terms of healing and buffs, etc. So this is going to be really good for those players that like building health regen and want to go for a longer drawn out combat. Maybe not so well suited for those that like taking spike damage. Instead, for those maybe at ranged or going for small skirmishes that like kiting, this could be perfect for you because you can then use your inoculator for other stats like damage bonus, etc. You'll be getting your healing from elsewhere. Just remember, stack loads of health regen for this one. It obviously goes without saying. Let's move on to number 2, which is really cool. This is called Grinder. Plus 20% damage, but we do not deal critical hits anymore, so this is good. This could be a potential damage increase for your character. If you're not sure if this is a actual increase or not, let me break down the maths for you really simply. Take your crit chance, times it by your crit multiplier. So let's say we've got a crit chance of 5 and a multiplier of 1.5. That gives us 7.5. Add that onto your 100% base damage, leaving you with 107.5% damage. Compare that with 120% you could have. So what we'd see here, if I had these 2 options, is I get another 12 point blah blah percent increase in damage just from choosing this ability. If I had 0% crit, it would obviously be 20% increase. So this could be really useful. Do a quick bit of maths. Obviously don't build crit if you're going with this. Choose the other skill trees. I personally think this is going to be really useful for tanks who don't build any crit at all but want to suddenly get a chunk more damage. 20% is a significant number. Really awesome to see. So next now we have Tactical Mastery, where swapping weapons reduces skill cooldowns by 50%. This is interesting. I don't know if this includes inoculators, grenades and special abilities, but for those of us that like having dual weapon sets and swapping between them quite frequently, this is going to mean you can change weapons and you get a 50% reduced cooldown rate, meaning you might have other abilities ready in just a couple of seconds. Really handy if you like the idea of really utilising and making the most out of your 2 weapon sets, but if you're happy walking around with melee and then changing to combat every now and again when you get bored, obviously this isn't really going to bring much in the way of a bonus to you. Next we're moving on to Crisis Management, where above 50% health you suffer 30% more damage. Below 50% health you suffer 30% less damage. What this will do is funnel and tunnel your health towards being slightly on the low side. This is going to maybe combine really well with some of the other skills and talents which give you bonuses when your health is low. Aside from that, I can't really see much more bonus to this, aside from the fact that you might be quite bad at looking at your health, and if it's lower for longer you might be more inclined to use your inoculator. That's the only other thing I can think of, but that's clutching at straws here. Moving on, we've got Blessing of Saint Victorious. Another tanky one. Can't take more than 40% of your hit points in a single strike. Essential for squishies who would die in a single strike, but I would point out we haven't seen any enemies yet that can kill you in a single strike. Maybe this will become essential for certain boss fights, perhaps later in the game. I think this one's going to have its place. We'll know when the time is right for it, but until we're dying in a single hit, really this isn't going to be useful yet. Next up we have Tactician, where we get a 50% bonus to our global cooldown. By that I mean it's 50% added, so all of our global cooldowns are going to be a lot slower. But what we have instead is a minus 30% to cooldowns and skills. This means if you're using weapon sets that have lots of abilities tied to them, this is going to be really helpful. So obviously not heavy bolters, but if you're using a plasma gun, you're going to be able to spam those abilities a lot faster and a lot quicker. You may have to be a little bit careful with heat management here, and you might want to invest into that to compensate. Or alternatively go with shot-based guns like still a bolter gun could be used, and you could use the headshot or snipe ability a lot more. Figure out the guns which you like, and if they've got enough abilities, then go for it. Just be mindful if you're spamming your main attack a bit less and spamming attacks less in general, then obviously clearing trash may be a problem. So do plan ahead, make sure you've got some AoE and trash clearing abilities on your weapon still. Moving on, we've got Eternal Warrior. Here we get an instant resurrection, knocking back nearby enemies once per mission and doesn't count as a death. Now it's not valuable because it gives you an extra life, it's valuable because you might have nearly killed a boss and you don't have to reset the boss when you die. You get to just carry on fighting. So if you're stuck somewhere, this could be the difference between being able to do the mission or the boss fight, really, or not being able to do the boss fight. Really, that's the only situation I could see this being useful in, but of course as the game gets harder, there's going to be more and more people thinking, hey, this ability is a lifesaver for beating this goddamn great unclean one, or whatever they put in the game. Oh god, I can't wait for Papa Nurgle. Now moving on, we've got the very last one, Augmented Body, where we no longer regenerate health, we can only be healed by our inoculator, and suppression is absolutely not affected. It never goes below 50%, so we never get suppressed or knocked down. Really interesting here. So we don't need to build health regen, and we don't need to build into any suppression. This frees up all of our stats for damage, extra hit points, and all these other awesome things. But of course you're going to have to build your inoculator in a way that you still can heal a lot from it, and you can heal fairly often. It doesn't use too many charges per use, so you're going to have to take that into account, seeing as you cannot have any health regen. Really interesting, and could be very useful for certain characters that want to build maybe in a more offensive way and want to be a backline sniper, especially if you're playing in co-op when your buddies are running in taking all of the damage. That's actually all the ones we have at the moment, but the devs have said they're going to be introducing lots more. This is super exciting, as now we can start to theory craft a little bit. We can start to think about what you want to do with your character, my character, what I want to do to make this guy more me. This is absolutely fantastic and exactly what us ARPG players have been asking for. Something that's within the lore but allows us to be somewhat unique and have our own play style. Really hope you enjoy the video, guys. Really hope you're excited for the content as much as I am. Remember, like and subscribe the video. Stay tuned because I'll be bringing lots of stuff to you this week. And once again, take care.